Welcome to a special installment of The Truth in This Art from Artscape 40. I am your host, Rob Lee, and this episode is presented to you by our sponsors, Verizon and Crust by Mac. Thank you for joining me for my conversations at the intersection of arts, culture, and community. Today, I have a special guest who's been a reoccurring guest on this podcast. She's here to discuss her involvement in Artscape and the vibrant comedy scene in Baltimore. Please welcome the managing director of the Baltimore Improv group, BIG Improv, Michelle Faulkner-Forson. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Artscape 40.
As I approach 40 and see Artscape 40, I'm like, come on now, what are we doing? I was like, thinking about it, Artscape predates me.
Artscape started when I was born, okay? I wasn't here, but it happened. Same year.
And it's one of those things, because this is the 40th installment, and it's been around since '82, and it's definitely been a big part and entrenched into what Baltimore's, I think, arts and culture scene is in a macro sense. And before we dive a bit more into the Artscape conversation, let's level set with you. I gave the very sparse, could you introduce yourself? And I know I've had you do this before, but I have a little extra spice and seasoning for this intro, but I want to start off by giving you the space to introduce yourself.
Okay, I am Michelle Faulkner-Forson. I am the managing director of the Baltimore Improv group and have been for almost 3 years now. Ooh, time has been flying. I originally from Chicago, came here by way of the Maryland Institute College of Art. So Artscape has been very much a part of my life as soon as I got here.
And we're recording in part of the campus right now, Mount Laurel Station. So you're like, oh, I know this place, I know that room.
It was like that. It was a deja vu moment or something. Yes.
So one of the things I remember we talked about, I think, in your the first time you were on this pod, the John Waters connection. So I wanted to dive a little into that a bit more. Like, what was that influence on your decision in coming here, and how did John Waters play a role in that?
You know what? When I think of his values, although he is the king of trash, like he's got some kind of like interesting name. I respect that he didn't change, or
the Pope of trash.
The Pope of trash.
All praises.
All praises due to John Waters. But just the fact that he didn't change who he was to be a part of the masses. The masses had to adjust to be a part of him, and that's gangster. That's gangster, and I want to be in that number of artists that are able to make the art that I exactly want to make, and then not having to adjust myself to be a part of anybody else's community.
It's a good point, and I think it's a very Baltimore sentiment too, that it's like, it is what it is.
It is what it is here.
Well, not I want to adopt this. It's the first time I'm saying this. I want to be the patron saint of pod.
I love that.
I want to be that.
I like how that is. I like the flow of that.
Just have a little like medallion.
Go ahead, go for it. Like, make you a little stained glass window.
Like, all praises. Like, give it up. I'll make your audio quality good. So talking about being an artist. Mm-hmm. What is your art?
I would say my art is satire. I use satire in everything that I make. And it could have been, I started in photography. That's what I majored in. I'd make a still image and call it something satirical because those are the connections that I have. And I feel that people are more likely to get the message from you if there's some humor or a tint of comedy in it. So I'm trying to speak my piece about mainly culture, Black culture, popular culture. And I make fun of it. I poke at it. disassemble it and put it back together. I do a lot of things, but all of it has something to do with comedy. So before I even got to the Baltimore Improv Group as a student, or I was already kind of making and poking fun of things through my artwork. So that just kind of added this performance element onto some of the stuff that I wanted to do.
And I think that's one of those points, like that sentiment around your art. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's where we're like-minded in that regard. And it's always been a thing for me. Like it's not the same as far as I'm gonna make a comic reference here. But like the comedian from The Watchmen is sort of that for me. And not as dark, because the dude goes left, but it's just like, this is kind of a bit, right?
Yeah.
And I can get humor out of this, and that sort of matches my sensibilities.
Yeah.
And I think when, being from here, from Baltimore, there's a lot of, it's almost like certain things aren't allowed to be funny at times. And I remember having a conversation in this, just after celebrating 5 years of this podcast. It's cool. And I remember talking to a dude who's Chicago, the dude from Sultan from Southside. And he was like, I want to see some comedy coming out of Baltimore, like a sitcom. And sort of, I immediately was like, I could do that, I could write it, I can look at that. So ultimately what I'm getting at, I think we need more laughs and more like, this is kind of messed up, right?
Exactly.
We can turn this into a bit, right? While still acknowledging sort of the authenticity, what's really happening in these different places, like being real, being legit, but also seeing that there is many ways to look at it, from a dramatic side to a humorous side.
Yeah.
Satire.
Yes.
So I gotta ask, so with that, Big Improv, and what are you doing for Artscape this year? What's the vibes? What are you guys involved in?
Yes. So we are providing all of the comedy at Artscape. And it's we've got a little thing called LOL at Artscape, and it's right at the Baltimore Improv Group. Free improv shows all weekend long, and we've got a mix of improv and stand-up. So best of both worlds on the same stage, doing our thing. So
if you could briefly give folks a sense, because there's always that, and I know, because you're an educator, like, look, you don't undersell yourself. It's this thing where, man, improv and stand-up is the same thing, and they're not.
They are not.
So if you will, and sort of,
I would love to explain.
Please.
I would love to explain the difference. Improv is improvised. It's a shortened version of the word improvised. And improvised is something made up on the spot. It's not planned. And that's very much the sentiment of the shows. We have some really talented creatives there that can make a scene out of just a word or a phrase from an audience member and have an entertaining show for a 30-minute set. So like, that is miraculous that someone could do that, but it's a skill that all people can learn if you're open to learning that. You can go to baltimoreimprovgroup.org and take a class. Now, stand-up. Also very difficult to do, but still anybody can, get the skills to be able to do it. They create content outside of stage, and then they come to perform what they've written on stage. And that's typically by themselves. It might be a duo here and there, but that's by themselves. And then they get like 5 to 10 minutes to say that. Versus working with a community of folks in improv and having close to 25 to 30 minutes to make stuff up at the same time. It's very different worlds, but I think the commonality is that we end up in the same spaces, as you see. Comedy is comedy, and it's all about expression and trying to get your perspective out in the world. And that's the commonality.
I feel like there's a similarity with music in that,
For sure.
let's say if someone is like, I'm a songwriter, I like to spend time in the studio collaborating.
Yeah.
And then someone who might not be as skilled at writing songs, but it's like, yo, I'm a great freestyle guy.
Yeah.
Off the top of the dome, here's my 5, here's the cipher.
Exactly.
Smack DVD.
Yep. Yep. It's different, very different processes. That's what it is. It's a different process. But you know, we're all of the same similar mindset. We want to make people laugh. That's the way we deal with our trauma, most of us, our pain, our distaste in something. That's the way we deal with it. And our perspective needs to be heard just like everybody else's does.
Speaking of that, brings me to my next question about sort of working with BOPA, working with in sort of this capacity at Artscape. How do you feel like, you know, this collaboration and working in this capacity has like helped with that mission of, you know, for Artscape's mission of celebrating diverse artistic expressions? I
appreciate, so like I said, my entry into Baltimore City came along with my entry into Artscape. I started school here during the summer, and that's all our teachers were talking about. Oh, Artscape. And you know, Mike is right on Mount Royal, so that's like prime stage. There's a lot going on up there during Artscape. But I just think it kind of is twofold. All of them kind of play into each other. They make a good point to bring all kinds of like Baltimore has so many arts communities. Like I've seen some really cool shows here, and these are artists that, you know, are doing it for the love of the art, not necessarily to be, you know, I don't know, in MoMA or you know, just they want to just create, and I respect that so much. And in the city and the acceptance of all kinds of arts in general.
Sure.
So Baltimore Artscape, they do a good job at just bringing people together. So these creative geniuses can like showcase what they've been doing.
It's like letting folks cook.
That's it.
And
not micromanaging.
and I think
add some pepper.
Just a little bit of that.
Right.
But I think it's cool too, seeing like all of these different communities together, because at times the sort of and maybe I'm thinking fine art here, but it's almost rarefied. It's almost like what you do isn't creative enough, or isn't the type of work that we're looking for, where it feels a little bit more open source, if you will, where folks that are doing work, they're getting the opportunity. I'm seeing so many young artists that I've interviewed, artists that I'm eventually going to interview, posting like, yo, I'm gonna be at Artscape, I'm showing work, or I'm gonna be part of B23, or I'm gonna be vending, or hey, I can't wait to see this performance.
Yeah.
So I want to get this take because, and I'm going to go back to more of the like sort of specific Artscape questions, but I want to get this one as, you know, the experience being an attendee, because, you know, being on both sides, this is my first year on the other side of it, of working here and doing interviews, and it's a different setup versus attending and absorbing. And I'll give you this context. I've gone to several, and some of the ones that stick out. One was, I saw Ray Charles here.
Oh, dope.
I was here for that. I was like, that's Ray Charles.
Right.
And I was just like, I was super young, and I was like, yeah, you got the right one, baby.
Exactly.
And, you know, seeing other like performances, and I think it was one like sort of like street performer one year, this is forever ago, but he was like using me as stilts. He like stood on me because I'm so tall. And I was like, this is wild. And it's seeing like, it just felt really Baltimore and it's almost like a large carnival in some respects.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe Artscape. It is like a big carnival.
But what is the experience for you in attending it, and what is something that sticks out in the years that you've attended?
You know, I'm a small, it don't take much for me to like like really be happy. And I appreciate this about myself. I remember last year, and it was only Friday last year, because what was the tropical storm that shut us down? Ophelia?
Yeah. Ophelia, you funny.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? But last year on Charles Street, they had these kind of streamers that were just flowing. The wind was nice. Yeah. And I was just like looking at everybody participating, and I was like, this is beautiful. It was just like, this is cool. This is cool. People are enjoying themselves. They're enjoying this art. They dressed up the street. People were walking in there. It was just something really small. You could hear the music around the corner because they had a stage over there. It was just really small, but it spoke to me as the experience that people could be having, outside of myself. I'm like, this is really nice that the city does this for whomever can come,
Yeah, and I think, last year kind of coming back and, as you touched on earlier, being there at BIG in the capacity you're in, that's like having that experience of being embedded right there in Station North in that role, and then seeing Artscape, which was gone those previous years, and kind of being back there. I felt the same, because I was there big on Friday. Yeah. And I definitely booked like 5 interviews. Mm-hmm. Michael Farrow, so many different people, like Roberto, all of it. And, definitely I felt it. I felt this sense of like, man, I love seeing our people.
That's what, it's really nice. Just a nice piece. And it also felt like a full circle moment for me, because like I said, when I got to Baltimore, Artscape was one of the first things that I was kind of wasn't forced into, but it was like it intruded into my existence because I lived in the dorms. Right. So I was like, oh, I can't park here? Like
what is this?
Exactly. So I went with some of my classmates, and we walked from Micah, where the dorms were off Mount Royal, to Charles, Club Charles.
Yeah.
And that's like where our night ended.
Yeah.
And to now be working across the street and participating in this way that I didn't even anticipate, it was just like, okay.
And now that you're like almost one of those stops on there now, where folks, if they know, they know. If you want to get the ha-ha,
exactly,
you should pull up. And I think that's the really cool thing about sort of going to BIG during Artscape, because I pulled up, I was there, I was just kind of maxing, and it was a few folks that thought I was doing like comedy. I was like, no, I look funny, but I'm not doing comedy. And I ended up talking to a few folks there, as I was saying, building out for interviews and communicating and networking, and just kind of being there in this sense of folks are not, it's not that it's not the hustle and bustle and people are moving, because there's so much stuff to see, right?
Yeah.
But people are there with, and I guess I'll say, a creative intent and creative energy, whether it be in appreciating it or showing their stuff, that if you're able to dive into a conversation, what do you think of this?
Exactly.
What do you think of that? Hey, you're into this? Yeah, I know you, man. You do this podcast or whatever it is. And it seems like it's open for almost a networking capacity, because I've never gone by myself to Artscape. I've always gone either with friends. It's never a solo thing for me.
Yeah. I feel like I walked through a little bit by myself, because previous times I was with other people. And it just, it was like this, I was able to reflect more and just like take it all in. And it's just like people come, they want to see what's going on, and they try to get the best artists, headlining, and, people that folks can appreciate from all age groups. So they do a really good job. They do a good job.
So back to the comedy connection, right? Like, there are certain pockets here as far as creative like communities that maybe aren't regarded as this is a creative outlet or that is creative outlet. Like I've heard it about comedy when I did that series of interviews with comedians. And it's just like, man, it's almost that kind of like, you know, like tight comedian, man, this is the purest art form. It's like, you're not wrong, but also, and some folks feel like they're underserved. They're just looked at as almost like, you're a thing to do, but I'm not checking for it.
Yeah.
How does like having, you know, sort of the support from like Artscape, whether it be from the marketing capacity, from the, you know, the structure, and you're putting on the ha-ha for the weekend, how does that help as far as post impact, if you will, like folks coming back and, you know, being there at BIG and even other comedy venues? I
would say that is to be seen. We've participated pre-pandemic, and I was in a different capacity. Sure. But I think a lot of our arts organizations, you know, post-pandemic are like trying to get our refooting together, try to get restructured into what, you know, society is now, and adjusting. And I think a lot of that has to do with like our success in the future will have more to do with our partnerships than anything. And I'm hopeful that a lot of us work in that capacity and, you know, come together and not, you know, consider one to be a competitor, and we all just figure out how we can work with each other and respect each other's art form for what it is, and see how we can support each other's communities. So hopefully it you know, we get all kind of wonderful people into our space to keep us rolling, and we do this every year. Artscape is around, so I'm hopeful for all of those things.
I think it's an invitation to go deeper. You know, I would imagine there are, if folks are into, you know, comedy, into improv, and seeing like, oh, you guys have that? Sure, let's pull on up. Let's pull on up, because you know, in the instances where I'm recording there at BIG, it's sort of that. Like folks are like, I didn't know this was here. Can I take a class? As you saw last week, you know, when we were at BC. So yeah, that's good. So I got this question for you. You've been here. Yes. You're here in Baltimore.
Yes.
Yes. We're here at Artscape, and we're going to talk about sort of this question of defining characteristics. What's the defining characteristic of Baltimore's arts and culture from your perspective?
Raw, open, sprinkled with queer. Like queerness, it's like all of these things all kind of meshed into one. I've seen some really crazy shows that I know I couldn't have seen anywhere else. And it's funny because like when I reflect on your John Waters question, I saw and probably learned some vocabulary I didn't know just about the queer community and how they function here. Like I think it's wonderful to be able to see all of these things in one space, like drag, stand-up, like I don't even know what to call some of the shows I've seen. Like shout out to Micah Community Arts Program. I saw a performance that involved hair being plucked from a boob. You know what I mean? Like I've seen so many things, and I wanted this experience because I know our school, it's a roll of the dice. You're gonna see something you ain't never seen in there, you know, and either you vibe with it or you don't, and that's the beautiful thing about art. You don't have to you don't have to enjoy everything, but you gotta appreciate that somebody was able to make this thing for somebody else that loves that, you know, and that could be your way to making a living. Like, this is America. This is America.
This is America.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can make a banana. You can put a banana on the wall and make millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where else can you do that?
See, you're going to make hair grow out of my head, and I'm almost Don King it a little bit. Only in America, baby. It's like, what?
Only in America. Only in America. So I just, I'm happy. Okay, so I think I spoke to everything that I said. Just like Baltimore is its own thing. Like Chicago's its own thing. And I respect both of them.
No, totally. And that's the thing that I look for and I had this conversation yesterday about when I travel, when I take this on the road, and I'm not looking for what feels touristy. I'm looking for what feels real. Yeah. And I think when everything, like right now, this feels like a sort of celebration. I want to get over the notion of Happy Artscape, Happy Artscape. Yeah. I want to get that over as a thing. I'm getting over multiple things. Patron State of Pod, Happy Artscape, all of that. I wanted to be appreciated because of what it does and what that impact is, because you're seeing sort of the purity that's here, like the unadulterated sort of, sure, we have headliners that are coming in, but it's a lot of local talent that's a part of it. It's probably 80 to 90% local people that are doing it and that are crushing it and showing off what we have. I think that's really important, and a lot of times, like, that's like a really big moment of being on that when you're on stage at home, right?
Yeah.
You're able to, like, I'm gonna pull a little extra stank on this one.
Yeah, exactly. This for y'all. Yeah. For sure.
So. And I say that to segue into this and the whole sort of traveling thing. I'm looking for, when I travel, I'm looking for what gives me that feeling of Baltimore. That's what I'm looking for in other places. Like, when I went to Chicago recently, I was like, I'm not looking for sort of, these are the places on Yelp you should go to. This is what a blog says. I was like, nah, I need to know the real thing. Where's the Puro? Where's the real thing? So with Baltimore, we have it here, and if you know, you know. Right. And it seems like externally there's more and more attention, and I think the sort of traffic that comes in, there are people from Micah and people from Hopkins and the different schools that may have moved away and they come back for Artscape and maybe bring friends. Yeah. So talk a bit about sort of maybe getting that wider attention outside of here and how, like, sort of like an event like this contributes to that, because DC is down the street, Philly's up the street, if you will.
For sure. I think we, as in the Baltimore Improv Group, we've been kind of trying to bring more people to us to see what we have, and and we don't have to go to your New Yorks or your LA's to do improv, but that what we do here is just as valuable as anywhere else. And when people come here, it's like, oh, I'll be back. Like, oh, y'all got everything right here. Even if you want to stay here and you want to do a little bit of traveling, everything is like less than 5 hours away. So it's just such a good. People need to understand how good Baltimore is. Well, don't understand too much, because I want to get a house here before, But like, this is such a prime location that if folks would just really understand what a gem this place is, it'd be overpopulated. So I don't want y'all to understand. I take that back. Just know it's a gem. Y'all should come visit.
Visit, spend your money, enjoy the art.
Go back home. Go back home, because it's popping here. People don't really understand, and they think everything is just a wire here, and that's so far from the truth. All major cities, all cities that have, urban environments, it's the same, structures for the most part. They, support one area, they neglect others. It's what it is, and it's everywhere I've seen us. meaning people of color.
Yeah.
And but there's so much light and joy in some of these places that aren't really supported the way they should be. And we got to acknowledge that. And that's why I think like comedy is such a space that like so many people of color are like using to just survive every day.
Yeah.
That I want to just validate that, even though nobody's asking me, but like I validate everybody that uses comedy as a way to get through the day, because it's hard out here and a lot of people aren't happy. And I'm learning the older I get, it's only a couple things you're trying to do. You're trying to be happy.
Yeah.
Try to keep as many teeth as possible. Make sure your feet all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just some basic stuff.
If
like
it's falling arch,
you know what I'm saying? Like I ain't even had no arch, so it's like from the jump off screw. But like if we just get to the foundation of like love and like supporting each other and joy, like everybody's life would be so much better. So I'm just trying to support that.
Yeah. And that sort of goal, and I think we both touched on it, of just folks of all these different places, in all these different communities and sub-communities, and however macro you want to get, micro you want to get with it, all coming together on a sort of a like-minded thing with all the positive energy. That's the thing that is palpable.
Yeah.
So it's the sort of last question that I have, the real questions, because even in this Artscape sort of collaborative thing, mm-hmm. I still have rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So and we've touched on it a little bit, throughout this conversation, but again, milestones. Mm-hmm. Describe the feeling of like, and I know we're recording this for context before the floodgates come open.
Yeah.
What is the sort of feeling maybe of anticipation and so on of being involved in sort of the milestone year of like, every 10 years, it's like that Patton Oswalt joke. It's like you get a birthday sort of like every 10 years.
Yeah. And
we're in one of those where,
mm-hmm.
The 40th installment. So what does that feel like as far as the being involved in this year? It's back fully.
I feel like this is the year of milestones for me, just like in general. Yeah. And being a part of the 40th year of Artscape, it's just like, it makes sense. It makes sense. Of course I'm a part of this too, there's so many firsts that have happened in the last few years. It just is all validating for like the journey. I'm supposed to be here, and it, because you question stuff sometimes. Like, how did I made the left at the light? How did I get here exactly? But it's all validating for the journey, and I don't know what's gonna happen next, which is exciting and scary all at the same time. But that's life. So I'm just grateful to be a part of something bigger than me and that supports the arts community in Baltimore.
Well said. It's great. Mm-hmm. So now it's time for us to get to the rapid fire portion.
All right.
I'm particularly proud of this first one. I rarely say that.
You said you were gloating about it earlier.
So this year, in the 40th installment, mm-hmm. we're back into the summer setup, right?
Okay.
The actual legitimate summer.
Okay.
And I know folks always talk about, man, it's so hot, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But no one's spontaneously combusted.
Not yet.
No one is ignited.
Not yet.
How do you beat the heat?
Okay.
During Artscape, because it was in September last year, and it's back in beginning of August this year.
Yeah. As you see, I have a very big water bottle with me. And I just, in general, stay hydrated, folks. Drink your water. No soda does not count. No juice doesn't count. Drink your water. I beat the heat and everything else with a big cup of water.
I just drink my water and mind my business.
That's it, man. That's it.
That's good. That's good. I was waiting for like, man, Snowball and cognac. I was like, what?
No, nah.
Actually, you know what? I may have come up with a third one. Look.
You know what? That sounds great, though.
That egg custard.
Look.
Okay, here's the second rapid fire one.
Okay.
I think artists and I'm around, but you're an artist. Mm-hmm. You know, they always have sort of that secondary talent. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know how much anime or anything along those lines, but it's like when someone has a quirk in like My Hero Academia, it's just like you have a secondary quirk. Mm-hmm. What do you have a secondary talent that you're so confident in, but you pretty don't really know about it, but you're so confident in it, right? That you're like, I'm gonna be on that Artscape stage with this talent one year.
That's funny. So I think the last few years, and actually this conversation started when I first got here. I realized one of my teachers asked me what I was good at. And I couldn't recall a moment when anybody had ever asked me that. And I was like, my God. Oh God, like it was just so many things that were rushing through my head, but like I know with confidence that I'm funny. I know that.
Yeah.
But I have a personality that people want to be around, and I can bring people together around things. I know that's a talent of mine.
Yeah.
To a point where, like, I have to, like, not tell people I'm around. So I won't, like, I have to set boundaries because I'm that likable. If that makes sense.
So likability is the skill you're going with.
I'm going hard with it. Like
that's an MC then, for one. It's just like, look, welcome to the stage.
I really have come to that thing. Like, oh, I can make anything happen just because I'm a likable person. Yeah. I mean, and that goes a long way, dude. It does. It goes a long way. That's why I'm like, there's so many jerks and assholes out here, like, being nice genuinely. Yeah. Not even nice, kind.
Yeah.
Being kind, and supporting people in what they're doing genuinely goes so far.
That's true.
So whenever you may want anything, you be like, let me ask, see what's up.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the mafia standards. Like, I am from Chicago.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
You know
actually.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, But I really do think, that might be another skill too. I'm strategic.
Strategy is a thing. Like, again, I'm told that I'm kind. I don't put that in my top 5. But strategy, I'm up there.
No, you're up there. Like, that might be 2. Fam.
That might be number 2. Podcasting,
you got a silky voice, so like it's there. You got that, and you don't have to work at that. That's just your voice. Natural, you know what I'm saying? But you got strategy, fam.
Well, thank you.
You're a strategic one. One strategist. That's what it is. To another.
We dig it. So that's kind of it for the main conversation, but there's 2 things that the full conversation, even the rapid fire.
Yep.
So there's 2 things I want to do in these final moments.
Okay.
1, thank you for coming on and spending some time with me, and happy Artscape. All that good stuff.
Artscape.
And 2, tell folks where to check out BIG and all of the good stuff or what have you that's going on there, the social media, website, all of that good stuff.
Okay. We have a website. It is www.bigimprov.org because we are a nonprofit organization. We also have an Instagram, and that is at BIG Improv. And we have shows even outside of Artscape now. We got Artscape shows, but we got regular shows on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday every week. We actually have our big Baltimore Improv Festival happening right the day after Artscape. I don't know why I planned it like this, but I did. And so no rest for comedy. August 5th through the 11th is 4 week. All shows, 7, 8, 9 o'clock. So, if you want to keep the party going, you can definitely chime on in. At the Baltimore Improv Group, we have all of our shows, and if you're interested, you can take a class. So we got everything you need. Everything you need.
World needs more laughter. So,
yeah, agreed.
And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Michelle Faulkner-Forson for coming on to the podcast, as well as my presenting sponsors, Verizon and Crust by Mac, for making this possible. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.